What is the creepiest glitch in the Matrix you have experienced? My dog's final goodbye. 1 year after his death. So my dog died around 2 years ago. He was a golden lab mixed with a German shepherd, lived to about 12 years old, and we had to sadly put him down as he had bladder cancer. Due to his bladder cancer, and due to being a dog I guess, he would bark in the night to be let out to pee in the backyard. It was always my dad who would be the one to hear him and let him out, since his bedroom window overlooked the back door. So a year after my dog's death, my dad is awoken at about 3 a.m. by my dog's distinct "let me out to pee" yelp, and groggily stands up and starts walking to go let him out. My dad getting up wakes my mom up, who asks my dad where he is going. To let the dog out. Cue mom telling dad that dog has been dead for a year, my dad confusingly remembering, snapping awake to the present, and then turning around to walk back to bed. The next morning, my mom remembers that it is the anniversary, to the day, of my dog's death. I'd hope to think he was just letting us know that he's okay. The 2-year anniversary of his death is coming up in a few months, maybe we'll hear from him again. He was a good boy. I saw him in 20 years. My partner and I were getting in bed the other night. He was getting in on his side, and he stopped and sat on the edge for a second. He looked over at me and simply smiled, very lovingly. For whatever reason, there was a very quick shift, and as I was looking at him, like a flash, he morphed into an older version of himself. His face had matured, but was still absolutely him. His hair was a little longer and graying. Even his corrective lenses has changed but were a similar style. It was only a millisecond. But it was so real. He was smiling at me. And I saw him 20 years from now, in a similar moment. My heart almost skipped a beat and he could tell I was suddenly shaken up, but I waved it off. I don't smoke, or do hallucinogens, and I don't drink. I am on medications, but for anxiety. I cannot explain what happened, but I swear, I saw him. My daughter and I both witnessed and talked to my husband in our house, while he was at work. My husband recently took an overnight job to help us out during COVID. He's only been there about 2 weeks and works evenings, overnights, 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. Last night was no different. He left home around 8:15 p.m., our daughter, age 11, and I decided to make it a movie night. Around 11 p.m., I heard keys in my back door and the usual sounds my husband makes when he comes home. I creep out to the kitchen to make sure it was him, and it was. He told me he needed to grab his knee compression sleeve, walks down the hall, says hi to our daughter as he passes the living room, and goes upstairs. He came back down, gave me a kiss and left again. We finished our movie and went to bed. In the morning when he got home I made a joking comment about him forgetting his knee sleeve. He was genuinely confused as I recalled the previous night. Our daughter confirmed everything I said and he still was acting confused. I pulled up our security motion camera on my phone to show him when he popped in quick. But there was no footage from the night before, or any other night, of him coming home after he's left for work. My daughter and I both heard him, saw him, and I touched him. But he was never home during that time. Nothing else out of the ordinary happened that night. We seriously have no idea what happened. My husband and myself have completely forgotten someone. Okay. Firstly, I'm on mobile, so yada yada. So, a year or so back I had a friend request of someone on Facebook and so did my husband. I had no idea who she was. Didn't recognize her photo, etc. My husband was the same. As she had lots of mutual friends, including my father-in-law, I accepted it. Here's the weird thing. She apparently went to church, youth club and most church events with both of us. She is the same age as us. Went to school with my husband and his sister. Everyone else knows her. Except us. I drudged through her Facebook looking for photos of her as a teen. No recognition at all. I literally have no memory of her. Same as my husband. But she vividly remembers us. Recounting stories about things we used to do together, etc. I remember the things we did. But not her. Here's where it gets stranger. I found an old address book. with her name, phone number and address in it, from that time. And she has photos of us all together. She is literally our glitch in the Matrix. Any thoughts? My eyesight corrected itself until I realized I wasn't wearing my glasses. For a bit of context, my eyesight is horrible, even half a foot in front of my face is nothing but blurry color. Yesterday my mom and brother picked me up to go to an appointment. I was running a little late, so didn't have time to put my contacts in / do my makeup and was getting ready on the drive. So while mom was driving I was in the passenger seat with the mirror down. I took off my glasses to apply my eyeshadow. My brother, who was sitting behind me, asked me a question and I turned to look back at him. When I turned my head back around, I quickly finished my eyeshadow and shut the mirror. I was looking out my window at the farmland just off the road and thinking how beautiful it was when I suddenly realized that I hadn't put my glasses back on. They were sitting on the dashboard. As soon as I had the realization, my perfect vision went back to being just blurred colors. It was instant, like flipping a switch on my sight. It was so shocking that I yelled holy shit. My outburst startled my mom and brother, so I told them what had just happened and they said they believed me but couldn't think of a rational reason for it. We tried to figure it out for the rest of the drive but honestly couldn't. TBH, if there's some secret to magically fixing my eyesight that I accidentally stumbled upon, then I wish I could find it again. Telling my doctor about my glitches got me diagnosed with narcolepsy and basically saved my life. Hi, delete if not allowed. Thought I'd share a random funny, but kinda sad, moment. For years, I've always had little things happen to me where I distinctly remember things one certain way and they'd appear another. For example, I'd get super bored in church or something as a kid. Would look at my legs and always remembered the mole I had was on the right. But a few weeks ago, I noticed it's now on the left. I was talking to my doctor about what I call deer highway hypnosis, where I'd have an object, tell myself I was putting it in a certain location where I'd obviously remember it, and never find it until weeks, months later. It was as if I was running on autopilot and my brain wasn't actually online, or I'd remember something as a specific date, like I remember my boyfriend's birthday occurring September 28th, but it always has been August 27th. This got me in trouble several times. I'm a very visual person, so I remember things such as routes to destinations by visual landmarks and not street names. So I often had debates with people where I'd remember a specific landmark on one side of the road or at another location. I can't remember specific huge glitches probably because I'm on the spot and I'm nervous, but stuff like this happens to me all the time. I chalked it up to some sort of medication side effect. But the neurologist reminded me I haven't been on any drugs to trigger lapses in memory. I would get terrified reading r/glitch_and_the_matrix stories because they were so near and dear to my heart. But I always thought whatever matrix I was in really valued me as a person, because once or twice a month, I would have thought I had eaten all of a specific food in the fridge and I'd come back later and realize I had more. So my neurologist stops me and asks if I have ever had any neurological symptoms such as losing control of my body but being awake. I told him I had a distinct memory in the 7th grade of asking my friends if they've ever laughed so hard it felt like someone kicked them behind the knee and they fell down. All the kids said something along the lines of absolutely not. I also have events where I pass out but I'm not dizzy or sick, I just wake up a few seconds later. I did attribute it to dizziness however. I stopped showing emotion for years out of fear of falling down or this passing out feeling. He kept asking me questions and after all the tests, I now have this diagnosis. Turns out my body/mind would confuse REM cycles so during the day, my mind would almost be in a sort of REM cycle, which is why I'd have glitches. A doctor described it as my mind filing certain memories away as dream memories. I'm so relieved because I thought I was just a freak of nature that attracted such weird activity like a magnet but it turns out I'm just narcoleptic with pretty severe cataplexy. The falling down is what makes cataplexy a pretty serious occurrence. I laughed when I was told I had narcolepsy but I was told people who fall down or pass out like I do have sometimes hit their heads or crashed their cars. I'm now being treated for that, and I'm so happy this casual conversation about day-to-day quinkydinks lead to solving this huge issue I had. Edit. I realize the title sounds super clickbaity, so I wanted to clarify there have been times where I've fallen down. Fortunately, I was always near a couch or someone who could catch me. I've narrowly avoided hitting my head many times, although I've suffered from 2 concussions because of this. This actually led me to be super avoidant and unable to leave my apartment, out of fear of passing out. Now I know what's up and I'm so grateful. Typically the passing out events would occur around the same time I'd have glitches, so I'm glad to know the 2 are connected and treatable. I was still talking to my friend on the phone when she texted me the line dropped, "Call me back ASAP." So this event happened on October 7, 2019 at 5:46 p.m. and I'll briefly try to describe it. I was on my way to running some errands, riding in my car while on the phone with this friend. I remember the weather being super weird, cloudy but hot. I don't really know how to describe it, but it felt like the air had some kind of heaviness to it. While I was talking to her, she said a few sentences to which I replied in agreement. Suddenly she starts saying the same exact sentences she just said 30 seconds earlier, only in a different tone and pace. It really sounded like she was repeating herself and not like the actual voice glitched and repeated, which is what made it even creepier. So at this point everything became fuzzy and weird, almost as if I lost sense of time. In the meantime I heard my messages ringtone going off a few times through the earpiece, but I decided to check them out later on. So I go on and tell her I'm pretty sure that she already said to me all of those things, and the most unsettling thing is that her voice would stop whenever I tried telling her, as if she was actually listening, but would continue on as soon as I'd go silent, without saying anything regarding the fact she was repeating herself over and over. It was like talking to someone who was purposely trying not to answer. It felt incredibly odd, especially considering each sentence was slightly different than the previous one, but the meaning kept on being the same. That's when I lost her completely. The line gets cut off and I go check the messages I received earlier. Turns out they were actually from her. 2 of them were missed calls and the last one said I should call her back as soon as I could. I was still actively talking to her while at the same time she was asking me to call her back. Definitely one of the most bizarre things that's ever happened to me. My dog saw the same glitch I did. This is only a small thing, but it still confuses the hell out of me and I can't think of any explanation. I was playing fetch with my dog in my living room. I threw the ball, she'd bring it back, you get it. My dog dropped the ball on my foot and waited whilst I leant down to pick it up, but then I blinked and it was gone. I quickly checked under the sofa, thinking she'd nudged it under there or I'd accidentally kicked it, but it was nowhere to be seen. My dog was still staring at the spot where she dropped it, and when it disappeared she looked just as confused as I was and jumped round looking for it. I scoured the whole room, which wasn't very big, and eventually found it on the opposite side of the room in the middle of the floor, even after I looked everywhere. We only had this one particular ball at the time, so we couldn't have mistaken it for another one. Not particularly exciting, but I can't think of any explanation. My dog was just happy to have her ball back at least. Edit. I figured I may as well. She's gotta take credit for the incident as well. This is my dog, who is just happy we found her ball again. https://imgur.com/galleryYZ4VC. Elevators freak me out. The first time my mom believed me that weird stuff happened to me regularly. First off, I know this is nothing compared to other stories on here, but I chose to share, because why not? Before and after this incident, several other things did and continue to happen to me, strange things. I have just gotten used to it and have learned to appreciate them. So, this was when I was about 8, 2001. My mom, brother, aunt and grandma had all traveled to Chicago to see Dinosaur Zoo. We had been staying in a hotel nearby for about 5 days. It was very upscale, new, and overall very nice. Those entire 5 days, my mom would let me run ahead to the elevator when returning to our room from swimming, getting ice, etc., and let me ride up alone, since our room was right to the left of the elevator when you got off. and my grandma would always have the door cracked. So, one day, on the way back from the pool, literally just got out, wet hair, suit, towel, I did the same, ran ahead and entered the elevator. Pressed the button for the 7th floor. There is only one elevator in this hotel BTW. Once I got to the 7th floor, which I knew by the signs outside the elevator, I went to the second door to the left, like I had maybe 20 times before that week. I knocked and knocked. Nothing. I remember becoming weirdly alarmed at this point. Best way I can describe it. Even though I was smart enough to know I could always just return to the lobby, or that my mom would be arriving shortly. So while wondering why my grandma wasn't answering the door, I returned a few feet to the elevator, and waited for my mom and brother. I saw on the display that the elevator was arriving on floor 7, the floor I was on, which was clearly written on the sign. I see the light and hear the elevator ding. The doors open, empty. At this point, I just feel something is very off, and return to the door, knocking and crying now, getting cold because I am still very wet from the pool. Finally, after no more than 1 minute, a very old woman answers the door and says, "Dear, I told you already yesterday, this is not your room." I had never been there yesterday. She then said, "It will be fine. I am very sorry, but I am on the phone with my son. Give it a few more minutes, your mother is coming," and freaking closed the door. I was shocked. I knew I was cute. And how could anyone close the door on a crying kid who lost their mother, especially a woman who seemed like the caring grandmother type? Almost immediately after she closed the door, the elevator opened, and my mom ran out crying and grabbed me. She was saying, "Oh honey, where were you? I have never been so worried." She then went to open the door. Not our room. She was stunned. The whole time I'm trying to explain I had been here. And my timeline of events had only been about 5 minutes. Her still hugging and holding me, she kinda just went into autopilot and went back into the elevator with me. She pressed 7 again. The door is closed super briefly and then reopened. The elevator didn't move at all. Once the door opened, we both saw my grandmother standing in the second door to the left crying. And then very happy, running to hug us. Apparently I had been missing for 45 minutes. Police were called, every floor had been gone too. They were still in the process of knocking on all doors, opening even locked, vacant rooms. Apparently, my mother had decided to once more go and look at the pool to see if I had returned there. Then, after seeing it empty, she took the same, only elevator back up to 7. Only this time, out of the multiple other times that day, she found me. And, not only that, we were clearly not in the elevator hiding out, as it was the only one. And the police and staff had gone up and down the elevator multiple times looking for me. We still talk about it to this day and can't explain it. My hair was still wet. The police were kinda pissed until the hotel staff pulled up the camera showing me getting on the elevator, but then never getting off. Then, what was the creepiest, was that when my mother got on from the lobby, you see her get on. Then 10 minutes passed, and then she gets off at floor 7 with me in her arms. They went through all cameras, on all floors, which had very clear angles of the elevator on each floor. Nothing. I swear, the staff was freaked out, as were the police. They were almost convinced someone had taken me and then became freaked out and left me shortly after. They were stumped as to why my hair was still wet. But they couldn't refute the cameras, as they were high resolution, working correctly and everything. I have always wanted to call back and see if they still talk about it years later. I just don't want to mess with it. Because it's not like I even see the event as serving a purpose, you know? I have no clue who the woman was, nor was I ever able to identify her. Because for the investigation, even after they found me, they locked down the hotel and all possible exits and had a perimeter. Chicago does not fuck around, by the way, with possible abductions. Every guest in the hotel was more than happy to help. Women from ages 50 on, all willingly let police take photos. Not one of them was the woman. This woman had very blue eyes, like very. The only possible connection I can think of is that the woman and I had almost identical eyes. I have kinda rare color for how dark my hair is. IDK. Sorry for long ass post. Edit. Thank you to everyone for offering explanations, as this is one of the rare instances it was on camera. I will post some other experiences in the comments when I get done running. And can't wait to reply to everyone. Also, do you think if I contacted the hotel or police department, they would give me the footage? Update number 1, just texted my mom. She thinks. I think it might have been the DoubleTree? I'm sure I can find out. I will go to my grandma's this week and get the photo albums. We took tons of pictures. Not sure why this post was locked so soon. I am still going to gather as much info as possible. Also, I had my mom send me a picture of my great-grandmother. Unfortunately, she died at the young age of 30. So she didn't appear to be the old woman. Update number 2, looking at possible hotels it may have been. Trying not to invest too much in my mom saying, it might have been the DoubleTree? Until I look at pictures. It is yet again under renovation. I will keep you all updated. Okay, post was removed due to it being a childhood story. Bummer. Update, here are photos I could find. I wish I could see the hotel name. Trying to get better quality. https://imgur.com/gallery/7w3cacvelevator update https://imgur.com/gallery/nqjakai also called the police station and they have no clue what I'm talking about. WTF? And I find it weird that no one in my family can remember the name of this hotel. Even my grandma, who has traveled the world and remembers every place she has ever stayed, can't remember the name. Seeing a dead friend alive. 5 years ago, my best friend died within a 2-week span, unexpectedly. We had a wake for him following the service, at a friend's house in the country. I'm sitting in a lawn chair, just before dusk, my first drink in my hand. There was a guy taking photos of everyone, and I happened to look over at a group with 5 guys in back, 4 in front getting their photo taken, by the corner of the house, about 15 to 20 yards away. I looked over to see who I might know, and in the back row, on far left, was my deceased best friend, wearing a red shirt, with his arms crossed, with a big smile on his face. I looked down to put my drink down, looked back up, and he was gone. I said nothing that night, to anyone, but it had rattled me. The next day, I called one of our friends, Keith, who had known him for many years, and I told him something was bothering me, that I had seen my friend last night. He answered, you mean over by the corner of the house, back row, on left, in back row, of the guys getting their picture taken? In the red shirt, smiling at you, with his arms crossed? And when you looked back, he was gone. I saw him too. To this day I have no explanation, but I don't doubt that there is another plane of existence, after this one, and that image has brought me peace over the years.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.